Hi everyone, this is Junk from JunkMods, and today we'll be looking at changing your designated dash to boot to any other executable instead. So we're going to be looking at making dashboard shortcuts. So what I mean by this is we're going to go ahead and change the way that the Xbox boots up and what it boots to. The primary tool for this that we're going to use is XBE Shortcut Maker, which allows us to create shortcuts to any executable we want on the hard drive. So what I'll be showing you today is how to safely make backups of your existing shortcuts if you happen to have any, so that you can swap them freely and change your Xbox's boot process in any way you like. So now we need to select your dashboard. Technically, we can designate anything executable to be the dash, but there are some things that we need to keep in mind. Firstly, the dashboard is exactly that, a main area or operating system where interaction takes place with your file system. If you designate your Xbox to boot to an emulator, for example, you're removing the ability to further customize the hard drive contents via direct access or even FTP. So booting to an emulator will allow for you to use the emulator in a closed environment. So the best you can hope for is either restarting or shutting down the console as far as additional interactivity goes. This can be helpful if you're attempting to structure the Xbox in such a way that it should be closed off after optimization, like if you're choosing to create an arcade cabinet or something of that nature out of the Xbox. If you go ahead and set up shortcuts to launch to your executable of choice, you're basically creating a seamless experience. You can still access the file system, although a recovery or installer disk needs to be launched from the DVD tray on boot instead. A few options you can look at are the Auto Installer Deluxe series of ISOs or a Hexen disk. Basically, any supplementary dash installer disk that has the ability to provide you access to the file manager. It should allow for system edits. Now, I can't guarantee that every single disk will work. Sometimes when you go ahead and designate specific executables, it completely ignores what's in the tray and will strictly launch to that application every single time. If that's the case, then you will have to go ahead and use the SID menu or something of that nature to go ahead and change back. So what I do when I'm in a pinch, if I'm kind of playing around with it and I discover, oh, I can't use a recovery disk, I go ahead and launch the SID installer package. So, of course, that means getting out my copy of Splinter Cell, popping it in, and then getting into the SID package that way. And then you have access to your file manager, and you can go ahead and make changes that way. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate the process of creating a new shortcut as well as backing up old ones, and then I'll show you how to make applications boot by default. So to use XBE Shortcut Maker, you'll need to get a copy of the program. I have a link for that in the description. Go ahead and unzip the package and launch the executable. And now you're going to be presented with this window here, and you're going to be able to put some information in the dialog box. So for this demo, we're going to go ahead and make a shortcut to XBMC. So when we start up the Xbox, it's going to ignore Unleash X, and it's just going to boot right into XBMC. So what we need to do first is establish two different things. The first thing is where on the hard drive is the executable for XBMC, and the second thing is where are the supplementary tdata and udata folders located. Our primary concern is the default.xbe location, as we can simply create our own tdata/udata designation through the program. So by default, I believe it's FAFAFA, as you can see there. You can leave that as is because it's set up by default to install XBMC the right way, aside from wherever it's located. So before we start moving the dash components around, we should probably back up our existing proper shortcuts or complete executables that aren't shortcuts. So what I usually do is create a backup folder in a separate location on my E drive or F drive partition. This backup folder has my MS folder backups as well as copies of my EEPROM, other dash versions. When you're placing a shortcut in here for safekeeping, remember to simply copy it into that location and then go ahead and change the name to something that you'll remember. So the ones I've done here, I've already taken care of, but you'll see my Unleash one is UX as a prefix, and my XBMC one has XBMC as a prefix. So we're going to go ahead and look at setting up a shortcut here. So in the case of my Xbox here, my XBMC folder is located off of the root of the E drive. So we're going to be looking at E XBMC default.xbe because on my drive that's where the executable is located. So this is very important. It'll vary for different people and where they have their stuff installed. What I'm trying to lay out here is just ensure that you have the correct target pointed at, and then when you crank out your shortcut, it'll correspond to that proper location, and that's all you're doing really is just telling it to launch that specific executable. So now we enter our data and then click Create Shortcut. When the next dialog box pops up, we need to save the XBE shortcut. Now this is critical. Whatever the existing dash executable is called, we need to match it. So looking at this one here, we're trying to launch XBMC, which the executable is labeled default.xbe. That's fine. We have that designated at the start. In this case, we're trying to actually change, it's not default.xbe, but it's evox-.xbe, and that's sitting in the E drive. So we're going to go ahead and label it as such. We're going to call it evox-.xbe, and then we're going to go ahead and crank it out there. And then at this point, it's a situation where we've already gone ahead and backed up our main executables. So we're going to go ahead and FTP this file into the E drive to go ahead and replace the existing evox- file there. Alright, so we have that changed, so we're going to go ahead and restart the machine, and you'll see that it boots right into XBMC. Now I didn't do any edits to the capture here, so this is literally me restarting the machine and then it doing what it's supposed to. So there we go, we're in XBMC. So now we're going to go ahead and swap the Unleash X executable back in, just to show you that you can revert it at any point. And we're going to restart here. And there we go, we're back to Unleash X. So to summarize, we went ahead and redirected the boot process to point to XBMC. It's fairly simple and straightforward once you give it a shot. Just remember that you're going to have to run an installer disk or an SID safe file package in order to go ahead and correct this and regain access to your hard drive. So make sure that you go ahead and make your backup, and just remember the order of things, and it should work out for you each time. So there's a brief overview of changing your dash on a modded original Xbox. I hope that helps out a little bit, and if you have any questions or anything to add, please leave a comment, and as always, thanks for watching.